Okay. And that's a perfect segue, once again, back to education. Because I feel a lot of people debate with lack of knowledge and more with emotion. And that's what makes us always at odds with each other. Like, let's go back to the point and go back to what you said. We're going to do a full turn. I believe people of color are the forefronts of our religions, because if we are the richest and we make up the riches of the earth, something has to be stole, but something else has to be referred to back to the power. For instance, when I said Dharma is darker than your shirt, but he had to be remade to make the caste system of India, East Indians and all that effectual.
But there's some East Indians that's darker than us.
I know. And that's what it is. Christianity, there's many different icons and statues of the Madonna and the Child. Dark as your shirt, if not darker, and they kiss their feet. But for business sense, the Caucasian statue is what's there.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to that understanding, which goes back to education, which we're going to connect to health, because that's mental health. Reason, logic, and projection of knowledge comes through action.
Facts.
So, why do you think it's a credible act to bring that study of science to the forefront? Where me, professionally, I'm a teacher, okay? I believe there's only two languages, math and English, for the school system we're in. And knowing that we don't even own the school system that our country uses, how do we reestablish true knowledge and information so we can teach people, but back to what I said, not be over their heads, but meet them at their level to teach them?
All right. To the first part of your question, let's answer the science question first. So the science question, the reason why we need to implement science is because, let's just go back to the etymology of the word science. It comes from the word sentia, which means knowledge and to know. We are not knowers anymore. We are believers. So it's very important for us to implement science within our curriculum. But what kind of science? We have to understand that we need a spiritual science, which we always followed as an African race. And the reason why I say that is because our ancestors, like I was given in the start about the weighing of the heart ceremony, was a biological function. That's spiritual science. That's learning something where now you can learn the biological function of animals, and you also learn the biological function of your body, and you also learn the biological function of the universe as well. Now, for children, that's very essential, especially when growing up. When we put children in a classroom with 25, 30 of them, and we box them in for 8, 9 hours, that's not healthy for them. They need to be in an outside space. They need to be learning in an environment where they can absorb the most oxygen. Because when you are in a room with 25, 30 people, everybody is taking up the oxygen within the room, and the carbon dioxide can cause people to daydream. It can cause them to veer off into space and things of that nature. So we can now see why it's important for us to be in a different learning setting as far as a classroom is concerned.
Stop right there. Mm-hmm. I agree and don't disagree. I agree, and I'm going to build on it. Mm-hmm. I'm an early childhood educator.
Beautiful.
So we have different styles of early childhood. Mm-hmm. You have the Montessori class, which is the plants and the lights. You have creative curriculum, which is based on the children wanting to get to know something, and we build on their knowledge. Mm-hmm. We also have high scope, where we use items to spark the child's imagination to get them to go into learning.
Beautiful.
I think that system fails.
Why is that?
And the reason why is because I believe learning takes place naturally, not made. You know, so we could use posters, we could use walls to teach, but look at how the Dutch do their children. Mm-hmm. They're in school for only 4 hours a day, and active play outside is how they learn. That's why they
Oh,
have
like what I was just
exactly.
saying.
That's why I'm agreeing with you. I'm going to build
Okay.
on it. They have the most essential school system in the world. When we look at America right now, America is almost dead last in education, and because of that, now we're putting STEAM in the classroom: science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. But science, technology, engineering, and math is all one language.
Correct.
So what we're really saying to our children and to the adults is, you're illiterate. Deal with it.
Correct.
How do we fix that?
How do we fix this issue? Well, ain't no other thing but to homeschool.
Okay, wait. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Because that goes right back into what I'm asking you.
Yeah.
We do not own our education system. So homeschooling comes by the state, an approved set of classes where the child can pass the state regulatory what is it called? Curriculum to be granted a piece of paper to say, okay, now we accept you into this. Now, even when you changed your name, that's not your birth name.
Of course.
You came to a different understanding.
Correct.
And it is written in the spiritual books that a man should travel to gain understanding to come back home and to teach. So, for all the things that we learn, which is structurally sinful as to being brown skinned and knowledgeable, how do we take that education back?
Like I said, homeschool. And even though you have to follow a particular curriculum as far as homeschool is concerned, you can still teach your child past that. You can also monitor your child's health as well, because when they go to school, they're not eating the proper nutrients in order to absorb information within their bodies. Our children are being fed garbage. They're in a box classroom, which is in a box system, which prepares them for the box as well. You understand what I'm saying? So you're boxed in, and they're ringing this bell or this alarm just like in prison. You understand what I'm saying? So they're kind of like spiritually preparing you and mentally preparing you for that particular aspect of things.
It's not kind of, because that was written in the aspect of what school was supposed to be.
So that's what it was.
In the 1950s, when the baby boomers generation became very prevalent, there was lots of kids, because everybody was having sex in cars and getting pregnant at the time. The drive-in movie was the original pop spot. You know what I'm saying? People had all these kids, and one of the senators or congressmen said that we need to make college necessary. So school went from the factory system, to getting the bell, getting prepared to go to work, to college, because there was too many kids out and about with no direction. So college was initially branded as the original babysitter for the adult child. That's when you needed a bachelor's degree to move on. Today's society, there's too many immigrants. That's what they say, right? There's too many immigrants. Build a wall. In 2015, I could be wrong, the GED test was changed 3 times in 1 year. And the GED test was changed. Why? Because too many immigrants came to this country and was passing high school. Because the education system was better. So Africans, Jamaicans, Haitians, Asian,
Guyanese,
Indian, call it what you want. Anything non-Caucasian came to this country and excelled. So they changed the GED test because it was too easy. They made it harder. So then the second test came out, and then they said that because too many people are passing, we have to change the respectability of the GED. So that's why when we used to go for a job, it said GED, high school diploma. Now GED is below a high school diploma. Now you have the state test, where you could be a straight A student, and if you fail the state test, you can't graduate. So they make you take the GED to keep you here, and anybody got a high school diploma is better than you.
Wow.
That coming from
I didn't even know
homeschool.
that.
I told him so. That's what's up.
I didn't know that.
But
coming
coming from that with the homeschool, it goes back to what I said. we don't own our education system. Think about this before I ask you my question. You have a board of education in your town. You have a board of education in your county. You have a state board of education. Then you have a federal board of education. So who polices who and what? And how many school systems do we have in America? We have 12. So do they follow the board or do they follow their own mandate, and is that okay by the federal? So being that our people don't have the collective knowledge that's necessary, you tell me, how do they find the knowledge when all they know is go here to do that? How do we break the chain and find real education, be it the body, the mind, or whatever?
Well, it comes now a point where we have to self-teach ourselves. As parents, we have to go above and beyond self-teaching ourselves. And how do you even start with that?
Exactly.
The way you start with trying to figure out information that you may not know is to visit your public library. When you go to your public library, you go to the African Studies section, right? When you go to the African Studies section, you start reading those books. The amazing thing about black people is that we have intuition. And also our DNA wakes up when we see things, smell things, taste things, touch things. And whatever it is that may be around us is going to lead us in a particular direction depending on where your mind is set up and how it is that we are dealing with society and its societal structures. A lot of times, when I woke up, rather, it was an epiphany for me, right? And I'm gonna give you a story of how I woke up. How I woke up was one morning, you know, I was on my way to therapy because I got in a car accident. And that morning I prayed to Jesus, take care of me, Jesus, you know, make sure that I'm good and stuff like that. And as I'm coming back from therapy, a car is like racing. I guess him and his friend racing. So I'm like, I'm gonna just stay in my corner. But then this car loses control. Slams into the back of my car slams into the middle divider, spins around, and I'm thinking the car on fire, so I get out the car and I'm laying on the floor. I'm like, man, what's going on? You know, I see a helicopter come and all these different things. And when I got into the ambulance, the ambulance driver was like, this is amazing. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, not even a scratch on you. I said, really? He said, everybody that's been on that particular turn, exit 13 on the Southern State Parkway, has passed away from that particular turn. Whatever accident it is, they usually pass away, but you were able to live, or whatever the case may be. This may be infurious. On one aspect, the Christians will tell you, well, Jesus protected you. On the other aspect, I'm like, Jesus tried to kill me, because I told you to protect me, but you tried to kill me. But I took it as no, I need to follow something that's going to allow me to be in a better position spiritually. So I asked one of my colleagues, well, what is a good book to read? And they said, well, start with the ISIS papers. So I started with Francis Chris Wilson. And when I read the ISIS papers, that opened up my mind to understanding how white domination views us. Because I don't view them as supreme, so I can't call them white supremacy. I view them as trying to be dominant towards us. And right now they are the dominant race on the planet. So we can call it white domination for now until we even up the score. But anywho, she was teaching us how this particular structure was predicated upon keeping us where we're at. Then he was like, okay, so once I read that book in like 2-3 days, I was like, yo, I need more. And this is where it comes into play when I was telling you earlier about going to the library and just starting anywhere in African studies, because as you begin to learn, you begin to want more and more and more and more. My next book after reading that was Message to a Black Man by Elijah Muhammad. My goodness. That tore open all the blood, everything with that. And the reason being is because he was very raw. He let it be known exactly what it is that's attacking us and who we are as black men and things like that. But that didn't funnel me into the ways of Islam. As I kept reading more and more and more, I started to understand that science was the direction that we needed to go, and understanding nature as a whole, because our ancestors, if you go all in Kemet, you'll see animal heads, flowers, different gods and spiritual elements that represent a physical plane and also influence people in certain manners. So my guess, like I said, is if you're caged in one of these neighborhoods, just go to a library and start reading up on African studies. You could read up, one of my good friends is Dr. Leonard Jeffries. We speak regularly, and he's into African education, and he would tell you just do anything. It doesn't matter what you do. If you want to put on a dashiki or whatever the case may be, like I said, we have the ability to tap into our DNA. Anything will wake our DNA up. Like I said, smell, touch, sight, reading, whatever the case may be, any one of our 7 senses.